Movie time with John DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just fine. From the top down to the bottom. He's gonna let you know if you should stay home or if you should go. Might even yell if it's a spectacle. From San Francisco to Long Island. 'Cause nothing's better than a motion video.
It's Movie Time is produced and hosted by John DeSando. Listen to broadcast shows Fridays at 4:01 and 8:01 p.m. Read reviews and listen to shows online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando,
And I'm Kevin Carr.
and this is It's Movie Time.
Yeah.
And any time is a time for Michael Jackson.
Hee
So the new movie out is called Michael.
Yeah.
And that's what we're reviewing today.
Yeah. It's very similar to the name of his father-in-law's movie,
Oh,
Elvis.
oh, right, I forgot that. Lisa Marie, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin, that's so weird.
You don't think of that. You don't think, oh, yeah.
I don't.
They never met.
So what's your overall impression?
Of the movie or of
Of the
Michael
movie
Jackson?
Michael.
Well, it's okay. Here's the thing. It's a musical biopic,
Yeah.
and I said this in my review. It's got a beat and you can dance to it.
Yes.
It really comes across. It's energetic. It's well directed. Antoine Fuqua directs it, which is a real diversion for him because he did Training
Denzel.
Day, and yeah, he usually does these real gritty action movies. But this one's not that. But Fuqua is very good at constructing a movie that flows and has energy to it, so it doesn't bog down, which you can get.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that Bruce Springsteen, Deliver Me from Nowhere,
That was a downer.
that was rough to get through at times, just because it was about depression
Yes.
more than it was
Right,
about music.
Exactly.
But this one, it has the energy, it has the excitement, but it is kind of. I heard somebody say on social media that it is a magazine featured article made into a movie. Like one of those things that would have come out in Rolling Stone in 1984. And that's kind of making a movie based on the Michael Jackson profile that Rolling Stone did in 1984.
So don't you think it's even a movie about the biggest hits or something like that? I mean,
Oh yeah, plays the hits.
I know.
And it's funny because there's this whole bit where he's wanting to go solo from the Jackson 5. He had a bunch of solo albums before Off the Wall,
Okay.
but it was all done under the tutelage of his father, and so
Right.
you kind of have to simplify things because you basically have a scene that you can explain what's going on, and the music industry is much more complex
Yes.
than
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I thought that the movie, while I was actually enjoyed the
Yeah.
music and
Oh,
his
yeah.
dancing, and this Jafar Jackson,
Yeah.
pretty good imitation
Oh,
of his
yeah.
uncle.
Well, yeah, he's got the genetics for
Wow,
it, for sure.
he does, yeah. And,
Yeah, he's good.
yeah, and I don't know what he's going to be like in future films,
Yeah.
whether he has a future or not. I don't know.
Well, there's going to be another Michael Jackson film, that's for sure.
That's right.
Because they even lead with, well, not lead, but they say that kind of, they're like, oh, this is just this section of his life. There's more to come. You got, it goes through the Jackson 5 to the Bad tour. And
Right.
there's a lot more of Michael Jackson after that.
Well, I think one of the criticisms of it, and one that I would have, is that there's except for Dad, there's very little downtime for this. It's all hyper Michael, and I think that he's a human being with faults, and I'd like to see some of those faults. I'm not
Yeah.
sadistic, I just wanted to see them.
Well, you want something realistic.
Yeah, and we know that his life was just fraught with that. But however, all you need is Dad for one bad life.
Well, you've got, which Coleman Domingo, by the way,
Oh, God.
is great in this
Oh, he
movie.
is-
I wouldn't say it's an Oscar-winning performance.
No, but it's a bad boy.
Yeah, but doggone it, it's not fun to watch. He's very good. He is just like he is the Ike Turner of this movie,
Yeah, he's Joe Jackson, and as Mom says, he can't be stopped.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what they basically said, okay, this guy's the villain.
Yeah.
And so they construct the script that way, even though he doesn't have the sway in the mid-'80s that, he did when Michael Jackson was a child. But you're right. He's the villain, so he gets all the bad stuff to do. And I agree with that. With that criticism that it needed to show him as a human. He's almost angelic at some points.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, it is at times borderlining on absurdity with what he does, and everything is I'm just want to do my own thing, and and like there's as much as he was popular with kids, and he would visit cancer kids and
yes.
which he would do.
Yeah.
But there was nothing wrong with him in this aside from him just trying too hard.
Yeah.
And you need to have at least some complexity characters to make it a compelling and realistic plot.
Well, because when the second part of this film, when it ever comes, I don't know how they're going to deal with it. There's such bad stuff that's going on against him.
Yeah. Well, and from what I understand, the whole thing was they had originally in the third act part of one of the accusations that was there, but there was a non-disclosure agreement that was signed.
They discovered later.
Discovered. I don't know how they discovered it.
Oh.
Because it's like you couldn't portray it in the media because it was a kid who's no longer a kid, but you couldn't portray them. That's as I understand it what it was.
Well, the clause said they couldn't have him at all.
Yeah. Well, they couldn't portray what went on.
Right.
But removing it completely doesn't mean you can't take artistic license and do something else.
Correct.
And that's my problem with a lot of biopics recently that we've seen is you get the family involved, and on one hand you get a lot of access and you get a lot of help and you get a lot of it makes it really interesting in some ways. But on the same token, when you have the family involved, especially if you've got a level of veto power, you don't get a realistic thing. That happened with the Jesse Owens movie Race. The Jesse Owens family was involved. It's not like Jesse Owens was controversial in that way or anything.
Right.
But there are times where I'm like, okay, come on, he's going up against Hitler. He can say he doesn't like the guy. You know what I mean? There was no point in that movie that Jesse Owens ever was angry or spoke out of turn. He was a very polite version of him, and I'm like, well, that's not realistic for anyone.
Well, I think we could agree, Jafar Jackson did a fine performance, imitation of his uncle. And I'll tell you, some people ignore. I thought that little kid, Julian Valdi.
Oh, the one who played him as a child. Yeah, he was good.
I was really.
Arguably, I think his performance was better because he didn't grow up in the Jackson family.
Yeah. He's very, very good, very cute, and they all are. The wild costumes really.
You're looking at that stuff from the '60s and saying, like, what were people thinking at the time? But it's a clown show.
I do love when he's in the studio and the director tells him to hold on to his feet.
Yeah, stop moving.
Right. You do, Michael, get near to the mic, but stop those feet.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting, that little bit's really interesting because it shows, as bad as Joe Jackson was, he was good at getting his kids out there to perform. But his advice was not big time advice. His advice was small time advice.
That's true.
And he would try and get, and there was this guy who was in Motown Records was adjusting how Michael Jackson performed, and that showed that at that point Joe Jackson was out of his depth.
Yeah. And there are a couple of moments when he teaches the kids. And I thought, okay, I need one. They were barely touching the wall. They had to put their hands out like that.
Yeah.
And telling Michael to look at him in the eye rather than looking around as Michael would like to do there.
Yeah.
There's some points there I really would have liked more because Joe Jackson just couldn't have been that bad when you see how it turns out.
Yeah.
But they don't go in any depth in that area, right?
Well, and there's stuff like that I remember seeing through the media, like when he goes on fire in the Pepsi commercial.
Yeah, I forgot.
And they're wheeling him out in the stretcher, and he's got his glove on, and he's waving at people, and you go, that just looks ridiculous. But I remember the shots of that, the actual media shots of him waving with the sparkly glove as he's waving. It could have been anybody under there, they just had a sparkly glow.
Well, I'll tell you, Kev, I had some thoughts there. It seemed to me they had some stock footage of audience reactions,
Okay.
as well as original. I just felt it was kind of a mixture, but regardless, they cut several times to the audience, and these girls are going bananas over this guy.
Yeah.
And even as Jafar depicts him, I thought he was asexual. I mean, I didn't understand how now maybe they were reacting to his songs and his dance.
Well, I mean, I was in school when he was at his height of his,
Okay.
you know, in 1984, and I remember, yeah, the girls went nuts. And now I never experienced, because I never went to one of his concerts, so I don't know if they were doing the Elvis thing where they're screaming.
And that's what I wanted to point out.
They
the
do.
difference.
I think they absolutely did. That's realistic stuff.
Huh.
And yeah, just because you can't wrap your brain about
Yeah.
why he's attractive, he
Yeah.
absolutely was.
Oh, yeah.
He was the sex symbol.
Yeah. But I never, even as Jafar depicts him, I
Mhm.
never felt the sexuality. I always felt that there was a perfection in the dance and the song, but it didn't. And you mentioned a good one, the Elvis movie, Baz Luhrmann's.
Yeah.
And you can really see all of the documentation of Elvis.
Yeah.
And you can see his sexuality. But here, I couldn't. And maybe that's because I knew what was coming.
Well, but also I think there might have been a little bit of deliberateness with that in the movie,
Yes.
because, and if you ever look at like archival footage of Michael Jackson, actually all the way through the 90s, he didn't appear when he talked to people in the peer place. He didn't have sexuality.
Yes,
But
yeah.
his dancing was very sexual. I mean, there's a lot of parallels to Elvis. The
Yeah.
hip movements, all the stuff that
Yeah.
got him in trouble
Yeah.
on what was
Yeah.
the Lawrence Welk show. They had to shoot him from the waist up. You look at Michael Jackson dance, and there's a lot of hip movement. There's a lot of crotch grabbing. I mean,
Yeah.
and you can see him go into that.
Yeah.
If
yeah.
you like, I remember it was Barbara Walters who did an interview with him in the early '90s, and he's there he's talking, and then she asked him to do a dance, and then he stands up and he just turns into Michael Jackson on stage with the movements and all that
yeah.
kind of stuff, and then he comes out, he sits down, he's a little mousy there, kind of how he always was.
All right, Kevin Carr, the movie is Michael. Now, if people want to hear more about what you have to say, they're going to have to go to WCBE.org,
Yep.
the podcast experience, and backtalk.
Yeah.
And, but up to that point, Kevin, what do you advise about this movie?
Okay, well, first of all, if you don't like Michael Jackson, don't go see it.
Right.
Because
It's all about
it's
him.
all Michael Jackson. But it is probably, like Elvis from a couple of years ago, the closest you're going to get to going to a Michael Jackson concert,
Yeah,
which you can't do now.
and I agree with you. I think it's like resurrecting him.
Yeah.
It's movie time with John DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just fine. From the top down to the bottom, he's gonna let you know